If you want to support the channel, then please check out my Patreon page to gain access to exclusive videos, take part in Q&As, and watch my retrospectives before they go live on YouTube. Hello everyone, it's Oliver Harper here. To celebrate Christmas this year, I'm joined by Mark O'Connell, the author of the book Watching Skies, for a commentary to the 1985 classic Santa Claus The Movie. Now, this film is very much a part of Christmas viewing in the UK. It's been on TV every year since it made its premiere on BBC One in 1988. So Mark, are you ready for Santa and his super duper looper?
I was born ready. I've got my puce lollipop ready to go. Let's do this.
So folks, if you wish to sync this audio commentary with your own copy of the film, put the timestamp to 0 and press play now. So Mark, now this is a kind of a weird one with its distribution, because it's a TriStar Pictures in the USA. It was kind of distributed by Rank, and then once it came out into video, it was a Canon Films kind of product for like 2 or 3 years, and it went to Warner Brothers in like '89 on tape. It's kind of just jumped around all these different studios, maybe down to the fact that because the film was such a massive bomb, I think they were saying for years it lost so much money that it was just kind of being shifted around to different studios or being sold to them to sort of make up their losses.
Yeah, well, the Salkinds kind of, even back in their 70s Musketeers heyday, they were doing what a lot of film producers, particularly ones based in Britain, could do. They were using different ways of, creating debts, selling debts. I mean, it's all very complicated, the movie showbiz finances. But yeah, it kind of bounced around different studios and different places. But in my mind, it was Regal Cinema, Cranleigh, Surrey, the first weekend, December '85. And we were in awe of this opening sort of Norway vista that was about as Norway as you get at Pinewood Studios on the Bond stage. But I loved the colouring. I kind of just waiting for Christopher Reeve just to swoop down right now or Margot Kidder and Christopher Reeve just to come up through the clouds there.
Yeah. Because as it being a Salkinds, it's very much a Superman movie production with all the same kind of effects guys behind the camera,
It's a beautiful opening. I mean, looking at it now, a really crisp, gorgeous edition. It doesn't matter that it looks painterly, that it looks like a sketch, because that's part of the sort of Christmas mythology. But this is a massive amount of British creative talent. Derek Meddings and a lot of his crew doing all the miniatures. This feels like a gorgeous little miniature where they're spraying salt or cat litter over a model, and I like the artifice of it. It's analog artifice, which we don't have enough of anymore in cinema.
Do you think it was kind of strange for the Salkinds to still stick with Janos Swart, who, the Supergirl was a massive bomb as well? I suppose they kind of jumped into this, preparing it while Supergirl was kind of being finished, so may have not thought that, okay, Supergirl was going to be a bit of a disaster, but to...
I feel that they probably were. The momentum was already there on Santa Claus the Movie before Supergirl came out. Because I think didn't Supergirl come out in America like November '84? Well, this film was still shooting at that point, so the whole Supergirl bombing wasn't definite at that point. I love all these British actors sat around. The guy on the left, asleep with the beard, was in my first short film. Played a funeral director. I can't remember his name now, but small world. but it's a very Salkinds production. In all sorts of ways. They had a great habit of putting an unknown as their lead. I often think it was a cost-saving measure, but they have David Huddleston, who wasn't unknown in American acting TV circles, but he wasn't a name over here. And then you have your unknown, and you pepper and surround them with big A-listers. So he did it in the Musketeers movie. You had Michael York, who's less of a name, but you surrounded him with Raquel Welch, Oliver Reed, Charlton Heston, and they did it again with Superman. Christopher Reeve was an unknown, and then we suddenly have Hackman and Brando flanking him. And they kind of tried to use their own template here on this film with having Dudley Moore as the big A-lister. And I think we'll get on to Dudley Moore a bit later, I'm sure, but we forget how much of an A-list Ryan Reynolds type name Dudley Moore was in the early to mid 80s. He was a massive comedy draw.
He was huge.
Yeah, he was up there with Eddie Murphy for box office clout. And almost sadly, who is Dudley Moore? He's kind of faded a bit from younger minds, but this is one of his best films. He got Oscar nominated for Arthur, but I feel he missed the gongs for Santa Claus the Movie.
Well, because obviously the Salkinds had used Peter Cook in like Supergirl,
Yes.
who doesn't really get to do much. I mean, he has a couple of funny moments, but he's kind of not well utilized, you know.
Yeah.
And it's got the same sort of scenario with this, where you got characters that don't really get well utilized. Very much coming in the sort of the second act of the movie, or the sort of, you break it up, because for me, I always love the sort of the origins of Santa in this for this story. But when it gets to, like, you know, modern day, I always say it kind of falls on its arse a bit, because it loses because Santa essentially becomes this kind of supporting character in his own movie. They don't know what to do with him.
It goes from sort of ancient Scandi mythology to sort of McDonald's Manhattan.
Yeah.
I kind of like it because it reminds me of Superman too. All of those Manhattan scenes, and I bet there's Salkinds were known for their repurposing and recycling of establishing shots and process shots. So I will put money that there is some sort of Superman offcuts or repeats of shots, particularly on the Manhattan stuff later on. But yeah, this is, I mean, here we are, we're in the 007 stage here, and a lot of the sound stages at Pinewood Studios just outside London were used here. And it was a big production for Pinewood at the time, and also at a time when they didn't have many big gigs in. You know, I think when Octopussy shot 82, 83, there was a period of time when it was one of the only films shooting at Pinewood, which you wouldn't imagine now. So when Santa Claus the Movie came in, it was a big British crew work opportunity, and there's so much beautiful artistry in this film, you know, with the set design and the model work as well. And I think later on, there's a beautiful long set that's so big they had to build it inside the 007 stage and outside the 007 stage.
That's crazy.
It's the runway.
Because this would have had, around that time, Legend would have been shot at Pinewood, but then that caused the massive fire, the 007 stage, and then they obviously repaired it quite quickly so they could finish off A View to a Kill. Now, View to a Kill is kind of 85 as well, so were these kind of movies kind of both occupying Pinewood?
Yes, because they had to try and keep the business and keep the productions in. And so I'm just watching reindeer collapsing in the snow. I love the puppetry as well, all voiced by
Jim Henson, isn't it?
Yeah, and all voiced by Percy Thrower, who was this name no one will have heard of now. But he used to do all these every time you watched a 70s or 80s sitcom where there was a naughty minor bird talking. He was like the animal voice expert, so he does all the reindeer stuff. You know, I am full of Christmas factoids on this film.
And we got his wife, who she's famously known for being in Keeping Up Appearances.
Yeah, the lovely Judy
Frances Bouquet's sister.
Yeah, David Huddleston on the right here, who's playing Santa Claus. As a kid, I was obsessed by this film. November, December 85, I was proper obsessed by this. I had the Joan da Vinci novelisation, which I read every Christmas for years, like until I was about 15, 16. It was like a bizarre Christmas ritual. I'd read the novelisation of this. And Huddleston, as a kid, as an 8-year-old kid, I actually thought he was Father Christmas. I thought although the American accent was a bit strange, but because he was an unknown, and I just genuinely thought that's who he was. And then, you know, as soon as you see an actor in one thing, you see them in everything. I'd start to see him in like random cop shows and episodes of Hawaii Five-0 and Charlie's Angels and Magnum. I'm like, oh, Santa had an equity card before this, yes. But I mean, Huddleston is a major sort of character actor from the American TV cowboy and cop shows. And I suppose, aside from the glories that are Santa Claus movie, his big film is The Big Lebowski, the Coen brothers film. Yeah,
pretty much. That's kind of most people recognise him from. And he's kind of like, he's playing obviously a completely different character and far more sort of like egotistical and self-obsessed, where this is like, I think you often get people forget he played Santa, because they always there's so many movies that have Santa Claus in them, and when you put in Santa Claus into anything, it often pops up with a sort of the Tim Allen film where he gets transformed into Santa. So that's kind of, I don't know, when you have a movie with pretty much the exact same name, you end up sort of forgetting which Santa you're looking for, you know. This is very much Fortress of Solitude kind of
Oh yeah.
introduction. You know,
I mean, again, I would put some Sorkin's dollars on it that they sort of used some processing shots. Certainly, they've used the same experts and craftsmen.
it was Roy Field as well, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The opticals. Yeah, really impressive stuff. I think at this point they were really had sort of fine tuned a lot of their effects work. I mean, kind of like come Superman 3 and Supergirl, the sort of the flying front projection was like pretty much spot on. And I think Supergirl didn't use optics, nor did this. So Derek Meddings had supervised Supergirl and this one, so he was very much in charge with the sort of flying stuff, along with David Lane, who did all the sort of wire work in Superman. So yeah, I think they very much knew what they were doing and ironed out all the bugs by that point.
Yeah. And here we have the cascade of British comedy actors. You've got Melvin Hayes there, Christopher Ryan from Young Ones. All these actors, Donna Stell, these sort of diminutive actors. They clearly went with local comedy talent rather than sort of people of different size or even kids. Love the costuming here as well.
Oh, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's the I was looking into sort of the guy who photographed the movie. He did he photographed Willy Wonka, and I think he did The Bounty the year before. So it's so like Willy Wonka, another sort of crazy Technicolor kind of looking movie with these crazy colours.
Yeah, he'd worked with Borman, the cinematographer. He'd done Zardoz. No bad.
Yes, Zardoz.
Yeah, no bad thing. Dudley Moore doing his under a sledge thing there. This is where I forget I'm doing a commentary and I'm just looking at the beautiful costuming. Bob Ringwood did all the costumes here, and he had great form at the time. He did Dune, Empire of the Sun, Alien 3, and Batman as well.
Yeah, I mean, he was the go-to guy for superhero outfits, wasn't he, in that sort of period?
Yeah. There's Christopher Ryan on the left. I always wonder when I look at Huddleston here, I wonder if they did have different casting in mind. I'd love to know, because, well, Sorkin's had a lot of wishful casting at any time. But is it Brando? Did they have Brando? Could you imagine Brando's?
It goes back to the early sort of building blocks of the movie, because either Ilya or his father, or perhaps Pierre Spengler got John Carpenter involved. And he was because he wanted control over the music and the scripts, and obviously it would be John Carpenter's name over it. So it would be John Carpenter's Santa Claus, you know. But they didn't see eye to eye on what he wanted to do, and he wanted Brian Dennehy as Santa Claus.
Yeah, who I often thought this guy was. I often got when I saw Brian Dennehy in things as a young sort of teenager. I often thought, was he Superman? Santa Claus.
Oh yeah. And obviously Lewis Gilbert was offered a chance, and Guy Hamilton apparently sort of petitioned to sort of, or lobbied to get the part, but he wanted to direct, but he wanted to shoot in LA to sort of avoid any sort of tax issues.
Yes, yeah, Guy Hamilton and a lot of the Bond directors sort of became tax exiles, not their choosing either. So they wasn't that the 70s and the early 80s? Like the tax was ridiculous for sort of essentially I suppose freelancers. Oh yeah, there's a reason Roger Moore and Michael Caine set up shop in Monaco, not just to avoid paying tax, but just to sort of stop paying 90% of it to the government at the time. Yeah, it was quite crippling for film, and often big productions like this had to try and work that out as well. Like, can we get the lead for that many days? Because if they stay over, there's a reason Michael Caine does lots of films in America in the 80s, because he just it was not cost efficient for him to shoot over in London.
Oh yeah. I mean, obviously, so if you think about the early stages of this, the Sorkins were doing something a little bit different instead of relying on the same directors and writers. But then it sort of swings back around to them using Jeanette Swark and obviously David and Leslie Newman, who'd written sort of rewrote sort of Superman 2 and then did Superman 3, and I think some of their work on Superman the movie was kind of still in the film to a small degree, but Tom McKenzie kind of could change most of that. I always thought it was slightly frustrating. They always kind of relied on those writers and directors where they hadn't really turned around a great product at the end of it. You know what I mean? There's always some sort of writing issues, and I mean, Supergirl had David O'Dell write it, who'd written Dark Crystal and went on to write Masters of the Universe. But I think Masters of the Universe is probably his best script, but it's not. That's not really saying much when you think about his other sort of repertoire kind of films he'd written. Because Supergirl was such a bit of a clusterfuck. I think down to the fact that I think kind of Chris Reeve had bowed out. And
how dare you? I mean,
I still love it, but it's.
I mean,
it's like
the Sorkinds kind of they remake a lot of their movies. There's a lot of similarities with Santa Claus the movie and Superman the movie and Supergirl, where you've got unknown anointed heroes, reluctant maybe, who takes on the mantle of goodness and be a hero to the world, whilst a megalomaniac Manhattan-based villain is wanting to derail it all. I mean, yes, there'll be a lot of matte work on this beautiful corridor shot, but I remember seeing the documentary at the time, and they built a lot of this for real. So, it's such an analog era movie, but so many of those toys and the wooden gifts were done for real. And I think a lot of local children's homes and children's hospices and schools near to sort of Slough and Pinewood benefited immensely from this film, and that was a nice thing. I'd love to have a little piece. I bet there's someone somewhere that's got a Santa Claus the movie rocking horse in an attic somewhere. Please step
in a world
forward.
of MDF.
Yes, yeah.
It's great because when you sort of see Santa at this point in time, and it's like all the toys are kind of reflect that period. But as we sort of go along through the decades, it doesn't really change much, do they? Because everything's still made of wood. So come the 80s, I think most kids will be wanting like Mask or Transformers, But obviously they couldn't incorporate those products because it'd be product placement and they cost a lot. Or maybe they could look at it as a way of like getting free advertising, right? But they stuck with the fact that he was still continuing to make these kind of wooden toys, and I think that's kind of I think most kids would want sort of an action figure and not a rocking horse, perhaps.
No, I wanted a remote-controlled flying reindeer Santa Claus the movie toy, not a wooden duck on a wheel.
Yeah, exactly. You get a wheelbarrow for Christmas. Oh, great!
You can almost smell the pine. I mean, Pinewood really probably, after Legend as well. It was the fire and safety measures with all this wood and pine from Santa Claus the movie. I think they learned their lesson. If you ever go near the 007 stage now, there's always loads of fire precautions around. It's like if they're doing anything on the set, they have about 20 fire engines parked outside, just in case. I think it had a little Bond stage had a little moment again on No Time to Die. I think an explosion went a little bigger than planned. But anyway, it looks great in the final film. Just remember that.
That's a cracking bedroom. I like that idea.
It's all those massive chunky handles. And,
oh yeah, it's great.
Accoutrements. So yeah, I think they did a lot of they used Norway for just the general second unit establishing stuff, but this was a major British demonstration of artistry. It's almost like a Bond film. You've got Derek Cracknell, first assistant director. You've got Derek Meddings doing the miniatures and the model work. You've got Leslie Brickus doing the lyrics. You've got Sheena Easton doing some songs. I mean, they've all just sort of stepped off to Eyes Only into Santa Claus.
Yeah, it's true, isn't it? Yeah. Well, because there's some like notes online saying that Paul McCartney was kind of asked to do the song. He got turned it down or didn't, Well,
he was doing his cartoon frog thing, so he kind of done it for that year.
I like the Sheena. I really like the Sheena Easton song. It's weirdly never been. I don't think it's ever part of any Christmas compilations. And
Terry Wogan always used to play it. He always used to play a 15-minute suite of Santa Claus the movie. I always remember he's playing. Because you turn on Radio 2. I'm sure they're playing Henry Mancini's score from Santa Claus the movie, and he would be because he loved it. It's a great, great score. I think they lucked out getting Mancini, and it's a real waltzing Christmas, showpiece. And it's used a lot. It's played a lot, like in Vienna and sort of European cities at Christmas with big chamber orchestras. It's still got a lot of love amongst musicians and orchestras. Yeah.
Wow, because I absolutely adore the score to this movie, and it took forever to come out like properly, because there was an LP release in '85, went out of print very quickly, and it wasn't until like 2012, maybe 2013, they released this kind of 3-disc set, and which I grabbed straight away, because it was like it was one of those films where if the film doesn't quite deliver, I think the composer really sort of lifts it up and keeps it in your memory, because the score is so memorable with its themes and taking classical sort of Christmas songs and just sort of reorchestrating them to be used as kind of like this kind of theme tune for Santa Claus, where when we see him kind of do his, he, for the first time, use his sleigh, it's very much a sort of superhero kind of reorchestration of the Christmas song, and obviously for years, obviously it was, no one could get hold of the music, but it's finally out there, and it's one of those scores where, but you can only listen to it at Christmas, though you can't play it throughout the rest of the year. It's so awkward and weird, and if anyone heard you listening to it, they'd be like, why are you playing this,
I've always thought that, like, when you're making a Christmas movie, you must have to really like Christmas, because you're having to get up like the elves right now. I mean, this is how it works on the film. You get up, you change your name on the bed, and you're marching forward, sort of. But the idea of like you're having to be Christmassy in March,
summer,
or summer. That's even worse. Summer. I remember The Holiday, the Cameron Diaz Christmas movie, shot in my hometown here in Godalming, and it was sort of February, March. It was still quite cold, but it's like Christmas everywhere. It's like really unsettling. It was really I don't like this. Take it away. This is one of the great big. It's almost like a musical number. Leslie Bricusse, who did some of the lyrics for the songs that he used throughout this, they're more sort of montage songs than numbers. He jumped at the chance to do it because he said, why has no one ever done a big Santa Claus musical on screen? So he thought, oh my God, Henry Mancini, it'll be amazing. Leslie Bricusse then was perhaps less complimentary about his times. Leslie Bricusse has a really barbed website. Do look it out. He passed away a couple of months ago, sadly, but he made good innings, and he kind of talks about, there's like a filmography, and he'll give there's a paragraph or two in each one, and on his thoughts for Santa Claus the movie, he said, a sorry experience and it deserved to fail.
Oh no!
I know. I was like, no, Leslie, you're wrong. He thought it was just a wasted opportunity. Maybe he was looking more at the box office.
Because on the soundtrack itself, it has this musical number here has the lyrics as a song, like kids singing it. But then there's a separate track which is basically the one from on the movie. Because there was some like criticisms like saying this should have been a musical, but I suppose Leslie had written lyrics, but they didn't utilise them. So I did use some of it. Some like Sheena Easton's song gets kind of used as well. But yeah, it's kind of creatively they just decided not to sort of use some of the lyrics and just use the instrumental track. But I mean, I love this little montage here. It also just shows off the wonderful production design, and it's like a crazy sort of like 1940s. Like it was Hamley's toy store, you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah. It's and not too much model work right now. I mean, the money they must have spent, and Saul Kinds would do random things like spend a lot of money on one set and try and improvise and not spend much money on another. But I suppose this is the Rudolph.
I think they're pretty consistent in this movie, though, aren't they? With the different sets, even like when you go to the modern times and you got like the little girls obviously living with BZ. It's really kind of lush kind of like house. But there is some bits where they're in like corridors. It feels like they're shot inside a school, like in Supergirl.
They have.
The same location, is it?
Every civic building in Slough was used for this film. We'll get into it later. Our friend Tim Partridge is a great historian and Saul Kind mind, and he knows where it was. Yeah, he was pointing it out a couple of Christmases ago. Sort of texting, "Are you watching it?" Because one of the things that has to happen to me every Christmas is I have to find this like at 10:30 in the morning on some random ITV channel and just watch at least some of it. I remember not seeing it last year, so when you gave me the invite to this year, I thought, no, this is definitely have to do it now. They could do Santa Claus the Movie, the musical. I could see it being quite a tourist hit. Obviously, your window of exhibition could be a bit limited.
Yeah, you got kick in a sort of like second week of November. You know what I mean, and just end like after Boxing Day or something like that. Because this film came out late. Yeah, it was late November in the UK and the USA, and it sort of trickled out throughout December throughout the world. And I recall Eli Solkine said he said perhaps they should have released it a little bit earlier to sort of cover enough ground to sort of make up the box office takings. But the reviews were just kind of mostly quite brutal. And Mark Commode still rates it as one of the worst Christmas movies. I think it was on his list. I was like, no. Everyone in the comments of the video were just like, no. He disagrees with Mark.
No, there's plenty worse. I mean, look at any Netflix line of Christmas films.
It's fucking Hallmark shite they put out.
It's all the Hallmark stuff. I'm like, nah. No.
Ghastly covers. All the posters look the same. A guy in a red jumper and a girl in a green jumper. You know what I mean?
Outside of some fake snow-covered mansion in sort of the home counties somewhere.
Yeah.
Lots of small actors congratulating themselves.
I think Burgess Meredith. Someone said to me the other day on Facebook, actually, like I think his granddaughter, something like that, said. I think she was on it, but Burgess has said the producers were quite snobby when he was kind of making it. But
well, he wasn't their first choice. They were sure it was something like James Cagney they had in mind.
James Cagney, really?
Yeah, I'm serious, but I imagine the Solkine's checkbook was a little diminished and wouldn't meet his.
We've only made £10 on Supergirl. Oh my god!
Yeah. Had we made $20 on Supergirl, I'm not knocking Supergirl.
Can we do more Shreddies promotions?
Yeah. And there was loads of merch for this. I remember there's loads of merchandise for this film. I'm sure there was the read-along. I probably had it. I had the novelisation.
Was there a McDonald's tie-in at all? Or were they doing that at that point?
Don't think so, because I was quite a McDonald's kid. I mean, it was always now that every film comes out gets a Happy Meal tie-in, it used to. But at that time, no. It was all, they were sort of in-house Hamburglar and all of that stuff.
Yeah, because as I criticised Supergirl earlier, I still love that movie. But it's the what if. That's the always thing that's always troubled me. It's like Chris Reeve was going to do it, then the last minute goes, "Oh no, I'm not going to do it now." And then David Odell's got basically just cannibalised his kind of script, to make it work.
Well, Sorkin's kind of did that a lot. They would start a big production, and then it's almost like the last act fizzles out of budget and momentum, and it happens a little bit on Santa Claus the Movie here, and that kind of happens on Supergirl, if we're fair and honest. They just, they didn't hit that Superman the Movie gold in terms of just the last act.
Really kind of good, like start, middle, and end structures to them. This to me only has like 2 acts. The first act is this whole kind of origin story, which is really well done. I think I still enjoy it. And then you get to like bang on 85, and it's like that's the next act, and it doesn't quite know what to do. And it's a shame that you don't have a face-off between BZ and Santa. You know what I mean? That's what should have handed them to go face to face. And I think that's what Gene Siskel had said at the time. Like, why doesn't Santa kind of square off against BZ?
What, sort of beating the crap out of each other on the streets of Manhattan, throwing each other into Coke neon signs,
throwing toys at each other,
Yeah, or eating puce lollipops and flying away.
You want this kind of moment? You want this kind of moment where Santa's on his knees and BZ's just going bonkers at him like Skeletor does.
It's like that woman in Superman 2. Don't leave us. Like suddenly Santa Claus has to go to Norway to recharge. Come on, it's this film. They've remade their own film about 18 times by this point. Yeah. So yes, this could have been James Cagney, but it is the brilliant Burgess Meredith, who was kind of most famous for our generation for being Mickey, the boxing trainer in the Rocky franchise, and he still gets photograph cameos. Meredith was a major, great theatre name and film name and telly name. He was heavily regarded.
Well, he's a penguin, isn't he, as well? So
yes.
Yeah. Get up, you bum!
I'm just looking at the colours. Such rich... I mean, I've not seen a crisp version like this, because often when it's on telly, you lose the colours of it. But there's real choice of colour and cinematography here. And this is probably where all the budget went. By the time we get to New York, it's sort of Superman 2 process shots from the bin.
Well, it's a quite... Because when me and Tim had done that Superman 4 video, and it's kind of like trying to trick the audience into believing that they're shooting and essentially making the UK look like America or New York. And it didn't do a particularly good job, Superman 4, but it was kind of like, making Milton Keynes look like New York City, or the metropolis, and things like Death Wish 3, which kind of made use of kind of trying to make it look like America. And this again is trying to do the same thing, but I think this kind of pulls it off far more effectively than, say, Death Wish and Superman 4, and more so I think than Supergirl, because Supergirl, they spent so much money on that massive strip of road where they built that sort of the whole town, very similar to what they did with Batman when they built Gotham City. And I think when they were making Aliens, there were still parts of the set of Supergirl they're just sort of breaking up and using for Aliens. And, and for this movie, they're obviously just kind of using select streets where it kind of feels like it's a little bit, Superman 2, where they've created that whole New York set, that strip of road for the battle. But there's kind of little select moments where you see the kid looking through the windows of McDonald's, and he's kind of like, by himself, trying to keep warm. So it wasn't much. It ultimately feels like a little bit kind of quite a small city, because they just have to rely on the process shots to make it look massive.
I love when London or the home counties are used to sort of depict America. I mean,
I love it. It's good.
4, obviously, that the farmhouse that I believe you may have got near to back in the day. And, Eyes Wide Shut. Kubrick didn't want to shoot in New York, so they built and found and dressed New York at Pinewood, but also in various streets.
Oh, Kubrick had a massive fear of flying, didn't he? So he never got on a plane.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's probably slightly a myth as well, but I think it was a massive fear of Hollywood as well. So he liked
they're going to get me.
Keep his Kubrick eggs in his basket. On here, the jaunty animated reindeer food. It shouldn't work, but it does. I used to love the reindeer. I wanted. This is so stupid.
It looks like loads of weed, doesn't it? It's like loads of skunk they're eating, isn't it?
Yeah, they're eating the good shit. Yeah. That's what Santa Claus did. He just goes around.
It's a kite.
Yeah. There's a reason why this reindeer food is used to make kids float in the air. It's basically live and let die. Let's go. Give the kids and drug users a massive great hit. It's the same thing. But I remember going back to that sort of using London as this is a major dramatic moment. I feel we're about to jump into the second act here. So
it's a superhero moment, isn't it, for him?
Yeah, this is his Christopher Reeve. Do you think he tilts at the end, just whether it hits the camera? No. And it's just joyous. I love the music of this. Huddleston works. Again, that colour, those warm greens and reds and golds are just delicious. And as a kid, this was cinema to me. This was the movies. This was Superman and the blue poster. It's all deeply nostalgic. So when Mr. Commode doesn't like it, I'm like, no, please don't hate on my Christmas nostalgia. They're off their tits on weed now.
It's a difficult thing to do as well, because you've got to kind of have these reindeer kind of animate as well, like obviously animatronics with their legs to sort of move and have this sleigh to pull, and then photograph that, make it look like it's flying. It's such a huge challenge. You're not just having, they're also used to just having one actor, or perhaps going to 3 on wires, but not this whole massive thing.
You'll believe a reindeer can fly.
Exactly.
That should have been one of their taglines. So, here we go. We're going over the medieval. This bit confused me as a kid. I was like, why? Oh, right, yes, we're set in the past here, aren't we? So I thought he's going back in time here. I got confused. Obviously, these angry, sort of Baroque kids grabbing cats.
Oh, yeah, I was so annoyed when I was a kid when I see that little bully trying to hurt that little tabby cat. I was like, you little shitbag, no presents for you.
And they've just scoured the local schools of Slough. So what are you doing for the next 2 hours? Right, come and just sit on a wooden bench at Pinewood and wear this old costume.
Look bored. Thank you.
There's probably some some future stars peppering the crowds here. In fact, there is 1 or 2 actors I recognised in that opening Norway sort of farmhouse. I went, I'm sure you became famous. So this is the inbox. This is Santa's inbox, getting all the spam letters. I did used to write to Santa, and I think it was age 8 as well, where I should have begun to put these things to bed. I got a card from Father Christmas, but couldn't understand why it had my mum's writing. and with a very Catholic nativity card that she got from the church. I didn't put Santa Claus down as a sort of Catholic.
Because you can send letters, can't you, to Santa? They go to Lapland, doesn't it? So,
yeah, Lapland is just mostly landfill of letters now. Lapland doesn't exist. It's like those islands they make off Hong Kong. Yeah, easy on the cats here. Come on.
Oh, poor thing.
But yeah, going back to the using Britain as America, a friend of mine, he's a neighbour, and he told me not that long ago, actually I can see his house through the window right now. His dad worked at Pinewood as a set builder or carpenter, and he would spend every Saturday there. It was in a different era of regulations and control and privacy, and he would just walk around the Supergirl set. I was like, what? And he said, yeah, I remember just hanging out and having my lunch sat on the steps of the yellow school bus that they would have. I was like, my God. The idea of just milling around. And I remember being at Pinewood and doing that. You'd kind of go for a wander, and I remember wandering from the Quantum Solace set to the Wolfman set to the Little Doric set, and then Disney got their hold of Pinewood, and for the right reasons. It's definitely secured its whole future. In fact, just this past week, a whole massive Universal Studios tourist thing is one step nearer to happening at Pinewood, the Pinewood Experience, which will be a mega, massive greenbelt expansion.
Wow.
And I've seen some of the sort of artist designs. It does look like Jurassic World. I don't know if they should be quite going for that aesthetic.
Well, there definitely needs to be a Superman section, because that bloody safe Pinewood,
Yeah. And we forget, whilst the film might not make, Santa Claus the Movie maybe didn't make massive dollars for its studios and its producers, it kept Pinewood going. It gave crews business. It paid their bills. It stopped one crew guy going off and starting to work for Magnet Show Homes. And I'm not joking, because my father-in-law was a set builder and set carpenter, and if the work wasn't there, they would just go off and do other things. So these films, these early to mid 80s Pinewood productions, Octopussy, Santa Claus the Movie, Superman 3, Supergirl, Krull, the golden era, they all kind of, that's why we have Pinewood today.
Yeah, definitely. This is obviously the first time when I saw Santa had sort of magical powers. He could teleport. Didn't have to crawl down the chimney. You know what I mean? And then when I saw later sort of films featuring Santa, they didn't have him doing that. So wait a minute, he has powers, right? Obviously, very early on, they had the discussion about him wearing the green outfit and the red. It might be a misconception or trivia, but wasn't the red sort of designed by Coca-Cola?
I believe it was a thing that they, in the 20s or 30s or 40s, they just thought, we'll make the green a bit red, and it kind of stuck. Yeah, but is it an urban myth? I don't know. But I believe that is the anecdote.
Well, I do like he's a bit annoyed that the kids are calling him fat, basically. He's got to go on a diet.
Oh, he's reading his social media. Don't do that. Don't read the tweets.
It would have been nice if they actually maybe sort of dyed his beard a little bit whiter. Because when we first see him, he's all kind of a bit grey, isn't he?
Well, they're almost suggesting he's going to die. Towards the end, it's like, I'm getting too old for this. And I'm like, no, you're just keep eating the reindeer weed. You'll be all right.
My second favourite Santa Claus is is the recent the Kurt Russell playing Santa.
I think that actually shares a great aesthetic. I think that film is very aware of Santa Claus the Movie. The first Spider-Man, the first Santa Claus Chronicles or Christmas Chronicles, whatever it was, is such a good, unexpected, sort of 80s Salkind-minded romp. I think it was a glorious find when I.
It was brilliant. The sequel they made, I thought, was terrible.
The sequel was awful.
I don't know what happened.
The first one, we had that end credits moment of Goldie Hawn is playing Mrs. Claus. I went, of course she is. That is just genius. I'd love to see a film with them. And then be careful what you wish for at Christmas, because they did that terrible second version with those.
It was so bad. It was so
sort of horrible Pokemon elves. It was all like, oh no. Elves, I do think, pose a problem for cinema, because it's like, do we get,
We get little people.
Do we get little actors, or do we do the thing? Do we get Will Ferrell and build a perspective set so he's massive and we'll just populate the elves by kids?
Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? Because this one, they just clearly went for people who were just short actors. You know, it wasn't little people. It was just people who were like 5'2" or something. You know. I presume David Huddleston is quite a tall man. Maybe not. I don't know. But he seems to sort of tower over everyone. You know. But it's disappointing in a way because we're seeing David as Santa. He's a really likable character. And then when he's sort of his role is completely reduced come the sort of second act, it's like, oh, it's such a shame. You're kind of wasting, his talents,
Which is kind of what they do with Reeve. I wouldn't say it's wasted. I think there's a better pacing, a better allocation of screen time and narrative. But when Superman the movie, when we first arrive at Metropolis, it suddenly becomes the Gene Hackman show for a while. And brilliantly so, but they at least they have the quality and the strength of structure to then bring Reeve into it more. Oh, that's just such a Pinewood set list, gorgeously so.
I would say, wasn't it? Say he's over the shoulder shot there, looking at the house. That was probably a street in London, and then they've cut back to him, which is basically, I would say, it's going to be Pinewood.
And obviously he's a bad Santa because he's got a bottle of booze. That's always the sort of bad Santa thing. We're going to have him drinking or nicking the money. Now, not as a kid when I first saw it, but as a teenager, I then got confused and I thought this was Meg Tilly, the Chucky actress. I was like, is this a young Meg Tilly? And then I thought, no, she was older than this in The Big Chill, which is kind of the same era.
Yeah. I don't know what happened to these kids. I mean, they'd done a little bit of TV work, but probably sort of disappeared.
Yeah, I was always envious of the girl's house, but I know she had a horrible life, adopted by an uncle who didn't love her. But
yeah, David Newman said BZ stands for Beelzebub. it's like a short,
okay.
Short of it. Yeah, so he's like the evil toy maker.
Oh, she's got her Baroque old antique.
Yeah. She's a bit of a sort of Hermione sort of character.
Yeah, she can't act. Neither of them can act, but that's not the first time that child actors can't act. So getting back to Dudley Moore here, he was Oscar nominated Best Leading Actor. He'd done Arthur. He got nominated for another few things. He'd done Mickey and Maude. I think was it Best Friends, the Eddie Murphy movie. I remember being quite obsessed by Dudley Moore as a young teenager because he just did such random films, and they'd always be on BBC One on a Saturday night. 6 Weeks, Mickey and Maude, and then sadly his career tailed off, and everyone just assumed he was hitting the bottle like Peter Cook sadly did. But the truth was he had a horrible, very, very rare brain issue that slurred his speech and made him bad to work with. And everyone just thought he was on the piss, but he wasn't. So he kind of faded away a bit.
Yeah, shocking, isn't it? It's very upsetting. He's such a fantastic comedian. There's always like these great sketches you can find of him and Peter Cook just basically just swearing like the C word, like every other word.
The Pete and Dud things, if you've got no children near you, do look them up. They are just disgustingly hilarious, because very anti-establishment stuff. I'm surprised Peter Cook's not in this one, but maybe they'd spent their Peter Cook money.
They've burnt their bridges probably with him, But Peter Cook, would have another great cameo that would be in Princess Bride, marriage, sort of speech impediment. Sort of,
Shame we never got Superman. Santa Claus the Movie 2.
Peter Cook as Santa Claus. The
quest for peace at Christmas. I remember becoming quite into wooden toys, age sort of 9, 10, which is not an age to get into that when you've got like sort of Tomy and Star Wars stuff. Yeah. I think I wanted a wooden toy machine rather than a wooden toy. I think I quite
made their sort of giant Bertha. Oh, Bertha.
Yeah. Oh God, it is. It's so that, isn't it? Yeah. You're showing your age there, Oliver.
I know. I'm sure some of my American listeners will be like, "What the fuck?" Just Google
It was a kids' show. It was like it was Chock-a-Block as well. That was another one where they just have these massive mechanical wooden things. But Bertha was definitely one of them. Bertha's probably started her career in the. I keep calling it Superman the movie. It's the movie tag. It's the movie. No, Santa Claus the movie. Maybe if they'd done a second one, Christopher Reeve and Helen Slater would watch up. They probably owed some contract appearances.
Did this? Because obviously, before recording this, this got some pretty good promotional stuff, didn't it? Before it launched, it had the classic with Soul kind of spending quite a bit of money on making of sort of featurette, which are about 45 minutes long. They did one for every Superman film and Supergirl. Obviously, the Supergirl one is great because it's like introduced by Faye Dunaway, completely.
Oh, with that amazing lighting!
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's like that's a camp gay homage film in its own. Just her lighting on the making of Supergirl. I'm Faye Dunaway. I'm like, I know you're lit like Faye. Yeah. And yeah, Faye Dunaway is another example of halfway through we'll put in a big name to sort of counteract and get our budget back a bit.
See, there's less is more because he's made too much and it's all shitty products, so it's all gonna fall apart.
Can they put them on Elf Bay? Is that a thing? Sell them off. But yeah, I mean, Soul Kinds did that. They love to announce a film. I mean, that became a real canon thing as well. But the announcement,
the Cannes Film Festival, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the Cannes announcements. There's a book or a documentary there just about all these amazing sequels to films you just wouldn't believe, and they would often be sort of a banner on the back of a plane going over the Croisette there, or there would it'd be a billboard, and that was often as a kid. If you ever saw any coverage of Cannes on like Barry Norman's film show, or sometimes Tony Slattery's Saturday Night at the Movies, if people remember that one, and they'd have Cannes special, and I'd always be looking over the presenter's shoulders because you'd see posters for stuff you didn't even know was happening, and often it would be stuff that didn't happen. And the Soul Kinds were really quite persistent at that, of announcing big productions that they hadn't quite got the money for, and they would often, like, I think it was Supergirl, they spend something like 1 million on the opening titles of Supergirl. Which are brilliant titles. Crazy.
Even the end credits are great, aren't they? So
yeah.
I think the same effect they used on Superman 3 end credits, where you got them coming towards you.
Yeah,
like
and it's physical. We forget that it's physical.
Oh yeah, there's a great photograph of them filming those end credits where they've literally just got them printed out on this black material and this sort of having this camera just basically pan across it. It's really clever. We just had a scene there where the McDonald's, and you got a song in the background called, by Kajagoogoo. Shouldn't Do That, it's called.
That'll be in the musical.
There is a music video for that song, and it's horrendous. It's so bad, but the song is great though. It's a great song.
A big 80s Coke can there.
I know, they're massive. It's like a pint. Also, it annoys me when you look at the Coke cans now and you see them back in the day, like, you get so much more for your money. It's like, it's like Mars
bars.
And
you'd tear your fingers off trying to open them as well. They weren't just like, sorry, can you get an adult to do it?
Well, it's like the old joke, like curly whirlies used to be the size of ladders. Now they're like,
and wagon wheels used to be like Manhattan drain covers. Yeah, definitely. So I wonder if maybe Coke gave them a little bit of bung. Perhaps there was a Coke tie-in.
Oh yeah. Well, I suppose that the Coke let them, use their sign in Superman 2, get smashed up. But sadly, there's no Marlboro cigarettes in this, is there? Well, BZ does smoke though. But I don't know what cigarette packet he's got.
Oh, I love the Soul Kinds for that. Evita, Cinzano, like you say, Marlboro. All those. I mean, when you look at Supergirl and the Midvale scene, I think it was Tim Partridge who's a big fan of that film as well. He says if you look, every logo is tilted towards the camera for every shot, so every brand gets constant recognition, and the signs are massive. You can kind of excuse it for a Supergirl comic book movie, but it's really blatant. So to be fair, Santa Claus here is tamer than it could have been on that front.
Now, you were saying early on about some Soul Kinds reusing some of the effects plates.
I just saw Mark McClure looking out a window, but yeah.
So I think they did shoot a lot of original stuff for this, because it's down to how they shot it because of the weather. I think there's probably maybe one or two plates that may have pinched from Superman. I would probably say more so with Supergirl, because that would be newer footage. But
we could have had one.
I don't know if they shot it on 65mm, but the plates look really good though, nice and clean.
Good way of getting around it. Just put cartoon sparks. We'll get hides the seam. And this is where films and cinema really burn into your consciousness. But my whole idea of Christmas is genuinely formed by this film. Like the idea of reindeer, those red straps, and those colourful wooden toys. The colours of this. If you could be in my lounge right now, seeing the colour choice of tinsel, old tout and baubles, I clearly am going for a Santa Claus the Movie theme, sort of 37 years later.
But it was kind of this, I suppose, for British kids growing up watching TV. For me, it was this and the Snowman. That was how I sort of perceived the sort of look and the vibe of Christmas, especially in the Snowman at the beginning, where he's making the snowman and the parents are there and you've got the fireplace and the TV's kind of on, and it's just kind of, it's not very showy, it's very kind of a little bit more sort of quaint English, middle class, lower middle class, I suppose, sort of look to it, where you see things a little bit more Americanized sort of TV. I think it's kind of a bit more glammed up, watch like National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which is kind of Christmas to the excess, but it's wonderfully photographed. It's a great looking kind of snapshot of like a Christmas kind of traditional, production design and feeling. But this goes hand in hand with that. I think it's very much a similar vibe.
Now Santa's taking Meg Tilly out for a joyride. Nothing dodgy about picking up vagrant children and
it's completely normal back then. It's totally safe.
Yeah. Old man, come and sit near my sack. Sorry, I went there briefly. Sorry, I'm not.
Not that sack.
No, the other one. The one full of toys made by Derek Medding.
Look at that green light he's got. It's like kryptonite in there. It's like blasting through the lens.
I'd love. That must have been an original shot they've got. Like, it's not.
Oh yeah. It's not reused from Superman.
Beautiful. No. They had to pick their time of year and hope there's some fog milling around.
This would have been like, I would say early 85 maybe. They would have grabbed this. If they know it's a November release, or perhaps they may have got it in like late 84 when they're kind of planning everything.
I want to see Helen Slater fly past on her way to fly over Psycho 2 at the drive-in theatre. Again, I did a James Bond Land Rover driving thing, and we had to go up really high. And all I could think of was this scene from Santa Claus the Movie. This film's way too much in my DNA.
Was that him attempting to do? No, it wasn't.
Yeah, the loop thing, which we will only do at the last moment when we have to make it work. It's
definitely the most kind of like, I don't know, maybe the most lamest finishing move Santa could do, I suppose. A heroic thing. I'm sure I could have thought something a bit better than that, but we'll get to it.
I wonder if any of these puppets exist.
Oh god, they all pretty freakish, like seeing those Ninja Turtles, like, Jim Henson things like 20 years later, like, ugh. It's so scary as fuck.
So my friends of the family, and I know, well, actually my stepbrothers know them a lot more, Derek Medding's kids. And Elliot Meddings is a big special effects guy now himself, and I think Noah is as well, the other son. And there's Chloe, the daughter. So I'm giving all the names out here. But they've told me, and they don't live far from me, there's so much designs and stuff in lofts and lockups. I'm like, you should do something with that. Have the Derek Meddings sort of museum.
Oh man, just do an exhibit. That could be
rolled
just
out. Anything.
Because he must have tons of stuff, like the set photos from all these movies, and especially more so probably with Supergirl and Santa Claus, with so much preparation he had to do because he had stepped up to supervise them.
Yeah, a friend of mine, I've mentioned him before here, but Alan Church, he still is, he's a special effects supervisor now, but back in the 80s when he was a young upstart, he would be an optical cameraman for all things like this. And also, and the stuff he would keep, the stuff he actually has, he's got Never-Ending Story, he's got the book and the emblem on the front of the book. He's got that, because it would be thrown away on a Friday. But the books, often the trailers and teaser trailers for things like The Voyage Home, Santa Claus the Movie, Krull, they would be done in Britain. They weren't connected to the studios. So he would be the optical cameraman doing all these. You know, he did the Voyage Home teaser, and I think some of the titles as well. And he showed me some of the offcuts. I'm like, what? Because they would all be thrown out on a Friday. It was a different era of well, there was no Twitter for spoilers or Comic-Cons. It was just it would all be hush hush. And the stuff he's got, and I should have asked him before today. I bet he worked on this film.
Well, he's one guy I'm friends with on Facebook, Nick Simmons. He works in industry, but his father worked on the Superman films and stuff at Pinewood, and he got Ripley's trainers from Aliens. And yeah, so he wore them quite a lot. So I think they've perished over the years. But
I just want one patch toy, just one wooden toy. I don't want a lollipop because that won't have aged well. But just
no, God,
one of them, or a reindeer bell or harness. They're quite cute though.
Well, if I ever found one of those lollies, I'll definitely give it to my friend Stuart Ashen, and he'll probably eat it for YouTube and give himself food poisoning.
It'll be so manky he will actually go high. He'll be like,
oh my god!
Oh my god! The actor from Gunsmoke is in my lounge. Is it you? Were you really in Hawaii 5-0?
That's great. You can see BZ in the background. Yeah.
Getting the John Lithgow dollars.
Sowing the seeds, as it were.
So she's kind of the Miss Tessmacher of this film, then. Is that what we're saying? No.
Possibly? That boy must stink.
It's Meg Tilly. It's Bride of Chucky.
Is he going to eat the cookies? Here we go. So, Santa, did you get me a Barbie? Like, no, sorry, I got you a wooden man.
I'm trying to think what was the Christmas 85 must-have. It was...
Oh, yes.
Star Wars was still a thing, just about. But
I'd probably say Transformers.
A-Team was kicking in, and Masters of the Universe as well.
Because there was a slight delay, wasn't it? Because whatever was big in America probably wouldn't reach the UK shores like a year later in sort of awareness. Because Ninja Turtles came out like, I think it's 86, maybe 87. And then it wasn't till like 1990, it was like every kid wanted Ninja Turtles, you know, over here.
Oh, here we go. I love these scenes. This is blatantly, let's try and make sort of suburbanville, rural suburbanville America, but in Slough and Woking and places. And again, when you walk out at sort of 10 a.m. on Christmas Day morning and see kids on their new bikes, I genuinely, no word of a Santa lie, just think of this film. I'm always thinking of toys breaking and
it just seems to cut to like John Cleese like thrashing his car.
Oh, that's the bus from Supergirl. Just use that for every Sorkind film.
Oh, this is one of my favourite moments, right? Because the little girl is at ballet and she's like, saying Santa's not real or whatever, or he does crappy items, and she slaps. It's a proper good like kung fu slap.
All the girls keep looking at camera.
Here we go. Come on, look at that. Oh, that's a good whack.
Oh, yeah. You had it coming, bitch.
Fight.
There should be a thing. There should be a call out. We should accompany putting this commentary out online. Going, as a child, were your parents in Santa Claus the Movie? There's got to be someone. Okay, yeah, that was my mum. She was at the ballet scene. Or yeah, that was my dad beat up Meg Tilly in the basketball court. Other Meg Tillys are available. Jennifer Tilly.
Oh dear, Dudley Moore.
He's read the script for the denouement.
Because there's a great interview with John Lithgow from last year, and he said like him and Dudley Moore basically watched an early screening of this at Pinewood and basically thought the film was kind of be like a career ender. They weren't really happy with it, and Lithgow said he got in the taxi to sort of go to work on the movie very early on, and the guy's like, "Oh, what are you working on?" He's like, "Oh, Santa Claus. It's by the Soul Kinds." He's like, "Oh God, I hope they pay you." You know, so they were known, weren't they, the Soul Kinds, for not paying people on time and keeping them waiting.
And suddenly you're contracted and paid for one film. Oh, we're doing a second film alongside this one, which actually I think didn't that change contract law, Hollywood contract law?
Yeah, the Soul Kind
Fade Dunaway or some around Musketeers time. They went, hang on, why are we doing the other film? We're not getting paid for two films.
Very naughty, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, and it's a hard slog as well, and also it's not cost effective. Everyone thinks it is, but it's not really, because you do have to pay people twice, as you should.
Well, that was the whole thing with Superman, wasn't it? To sort of shoot both movies kind of back to back and pay them just for one.
Yeah, they I still love the era of cinema the Soul Kinds are responsible for. It was independent
producing. You know, raising more money than what the studios were sort of putting out at the time. Because even Lucas, you know, he went to independent, didn't he, with Empire, where he paid for a lot of it himself.
Yeah, I think they're like the CBS Fox of Broccolis. They didn't quite. Well, they didn't have the box office success to. And it's almost like they got what's the phrase? Champagne taste, lemonade pockets. They were going for the big budgets, but their films slightly. They spent the money in the wrong place.
They sold too big, didn't they? They sort of promotion wise they spent too much before even making the movie. And it's kind of like because you were saying about the Cannes Film Festival, where they sort of dominated for a bit with their promotions, and Canon Films pretty much took over, didn't they? Cannes Film Festival each year, pushing their movies that never got made, like I don't know, Captain America, directed by Michael Winner, sorry, you know.
Oh, and there's a couple of great documentaries about the nuts timeline of Golan Globus. I'm surprised they didn't. They probably had the rights to Santa Claus the Movie. They were going to do Santa Claus the Movie starring Molly Ringwald and I don't know, some random. Here we go. I think
it'd be Charles Bronson as Santa Claus, you know.
So I think this is Slough Court or Slough Town Hall, I believe. Tim Partridge mentioned this a Christmas or two ago. This is all done at Slough, sort of admin offices. And this is the danger of setting fire to a doll. Well, if you set fire to it, of course it's going to burn.
I love they take one of the teddy bears and just empty it. It's got
full
nuts
of
and
nails.
bolts in it.
Yeah.
It's so
is that the actor? There's the actor from. There's the guy, one of the X-Wing pilots from Star Wars: New Hope on the right.
Am I
right or wrong?
Next to the chairman.
Yeah. Is that not him?
He looks familiar, yeah.
It does look familiar. It's sort of got those Michael Shannon looks. If it's him, there's a great documentary called Elstree 76 where it's all about the bit part actors.
Those guys
really
made
good
that
documentary.
Documentary about the British stuntmen, didn't they?
Which is also that's actually one of my films of this year. The Hollywood Bulldogs, a stunning look, real honest look at British stuntmen from sort of the 60s to the 90s.
Yeah.
You can find it. It's on BritBox. You can find it. I watched it twice in one night. I found it was a beautifully candid film about a slightly different era of stunts, but it was all, Vic Armstrongs and your Superman and your Raiders, and they were all done at Elstree and the home count. I call it the studio belt of Britain. Love his sidekick here.
See, this bit here just reminded me of Supergirl, which is sort of like, it felt like the school a little bit, you know what I mean? But I think it's different. It is a different location, but. I think I'd emailed the production designer of Supergirl at one point, and he did confirm a few things with me, but I need to dig up that email.
I mean, John Lithgow, he's had a great career. He's still cool. He's a bit like Bill Murray. He still sort of keeps his coolness. But he was on a good wave. He'd done Terms of Endearment, I think, Footloose.
Buckaroo Banzai. Sorry.
Yeah, that as well. Yeah. The World According to Garp, where he got supporting actor nominated for playing a trans character. That's slightly done for humour, but also slightly not. And that, it's kind of brave for him to do it. And I met him once. I was in New York. We went to see Dirty Rotten Scoundrels of October '05, and we just, when it ended, we left by a side door, and the side door happened to be where the stage door was, and he came out almost the same moment we did. And I remember,
sorry, Mark, look behind him, that tramp. There was the A-Team van.
Yeah,
what the hell?
And that's no. You're right. And British actor was always in EastEnders. The chauffeur heavy for BZ. He was always playing sort of gangsters and dodgy people in the bill.
I mean, this is like Ross Webster, kind of like.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's not. You're right. It's not Lex Luthor. It's Ross Webster. It's kind of like faux Luthor.
Because that was all grey. Now this is all going to the world of brown again. Brown
with
and beige.
With a bit of a Ken Adams lighting motif there.
Yeah.
I feel a bit of a Dr. No moment there. Lithgow is great in these scenes. I mean, he
steals it.
He steals it. He's the reason I always try and find this film every Christmas. He's hammy, his pantomime. I mean, that's also a thing that the Americans don't understand pantomime. They know what it is sometimes. But I think you can explain this film away a bit. It's like a British pantomime for Americans. So yes, you'll get John Lithgow. Oh, what are you doing at the moment? Oh, I'm shooting Santa Claus. It kind of is. You can excuse it. It's like a British Pinewood pantomime.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's when they always said, like with Superman, you had this sort of serious start to the movie. Then once you go to New York, it becomes a comic strip. Now it's very similar to this, where once you go to modern times, it becomes a comic strip where they're sort of wacky characters and the humour's kind of pushed up to 11, especially with Lithgow, who's basically completely over the top and chewing his dialogue, and makes it keeps you entertained through the generally kind of like script where it's kind of just lost its direction at this point, where we know Patch is going to create his own kind of toys and try and outdo Santa, and which is, I think it's kind of an interesting kind of twist on things, but it just doesn't have a, as you were saying earlier, it doesn't know how to finish.
Yeah, you're right. We should have almost had a bitch off with BZ and Santa Claus.
Definitely. Yeah.
Almost maybe even in the sort of the Norway, wherever we actually were. Just
well, you should have created an evil Santa,
a frozen lake or something. Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Your BZ should have become Santa. You know what I mean? An evil version where he's, I don't know, either just giving people faulty products, or he's, I don't know.
Like the Book of BZ, he sort of takes the throne of Santa and does his Boba Fett thing.
Yeah. And there's a joke where, like, he's now going to charge kids for the Christmas presents. You know what I mean? Not going to get one for free. You got to pay for it.
Yeah, and all his sort of Cockney gangster stuntmen entourage are having to frantically paint wooden ducks and things. And
I love all the photos in the background there. I always thought Pine would just grab stuff from the set, like there's probably like cubby broccoli there or something like that. Just shoved on the wall.
There's rooms upstairs at Heatherton Hall at Pine. It's not that, but that sort of mahogany. Art Deco finish. I mean, both Sorkin's Superman the movie especially is really obsessed with the idea of celebrity and being famous. So their villains want to be famous, not just profitable. Yes, Lex Luthor wants to make money and he's obsessed with land, but the whole idea of being famous, of being noticed. So that's probably slightly keeping the photos. It's presumably BZ meeting Liza Minnelli at Studio 54 and Carol Channing and all of that.
That's great. His face goes completely red. Yeah.
That is a line. Often, if you do some media work and my husband says, "Are they paying you?" I'm not. Or are you doing it for free? Yeah. I tell you, this film's in my DNA. Lithgow's so great as well. He was great when we saw him on Broadway. He played the Michael Caine role in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which was beat for beat, just like the film. It was a stunning production. It never transferred over to London. It was meant to, I think, with Jonathan Pryce. But
I suppose for a younger generation, he's very much known for Third Rock from the Sun, wasn't it? Which was, he's every episode he's fantastic in, because he just plays what you've kind of so used to with him.
Well, these feel like Crown offcuts. This feels like Crown season 1, where he's cigar chomping Churchill. Look, he's it's almost that. And he's not long come off playing Yoda.
He did the radio.
Yeah, he'd done the Empire Strikes Back radio drama where he did Yoda.
Right.
I have heard it. It is very much John Lithgow doing Frank Oz. Yeah.
He's
Uh-huh.
like,
I bet Lithgow. I don't know, but I bet it's Lithgow for art. The reindeer weed.
yeah,
That's the good
skunk, sir.
shit. Yeah.
This is Bentley Pinewood, must be. It's like this.
I don't know. It's probably some packing factory in Langley next to Slough somewhere. They still do that though. Jurassic World has shot in like industrial units in Langley and Slough. The artifice still goes on. Everything looks shiny and it's all done on computers and no one ever actually leaves the soundstage. But there is still a lot of British on
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's like, when you sort of like, because Justice League was all done at Leavesden, and when you see that sequence at the end where in the theatrical cut where you got Superman kind of going to run, outrun the Flash. It's just like, this is clearly English kind of countryside. Just gone shot it, outside the studio, and it's like in Batman Begins when at the end when you see his kind of mansion, it's all crumbled down. You can look behind Bale and oh God, what was her name? The other lady. The whole backdrop is English countryside. It's like pretty much where they shot, I imagine, like Superman 4, like Smallville. Crossed out dispatch, isn't he? Just put patch.
There's sort of a little bit of Rick Moranis. There's a little bit of sort of the New York wisecracking assistant who no one listens to.
Oh yeah, good point.
You've got a Dudley Moore.
Is he playing a piano? What's he doing? Or is it just a work desk?
Yes, his work desk.
Yeah.
Carving a caricature of Arthur there. This is why we can't afford a big end. Dudley Moore took 10 million or some horrific amount of money to be in the film. We're now going to have the wooden Dudley Moore till the end of the film now. Cause couldn't afford to keep the real thing.
It looks like a piano, actually. I don't know.
Oh, he does have. Does he have a piano? When they're doing the. Yeah, he was kind of at a sort of Wurlitzery.
Because I tried looking for the Sheena Easton kind of music video if they'd done one, but they didn't do one that that had a mix of her singing to camera and then cutting the footage. It was just literally a music video with just clips from the film. That was it. And I tried looking to see if the song had seeded in the charts, and I didn't at all.
No. Although I remember it being played. I do remember it being again. Radio 2, Terry Wogan. He got behind the soundtrack.
Old Tell.
Back in the day, yeah. So now we're in the Obi-Wan club. I mean, obviously it's trying to be a swipe at consumerism and a swipe at that 80s culture where why won't a wooden toy suffice? No, you want things with batteries. Well, blame cinema for that because Star Wars changed what kids wanted at Christmas.
Yeah. And it was a sort of the relaxation, weren't they, of toys being advertised to children. That's why we got these kind of endless amounts of like cartoons and toys tying in together. It's like, all the kids want Star Wars figures. I don't want wooden toys. But looks like the guy looks like Peter Kay, the guy who was competing against Patch.
That might no, I think it's Donna Stell, but there's a lot of as I say British comedy support actors here.
Oh, look at that design! It's so like
I love this.
A 70s kind of stuntman,
Yeah, it's like Evel Knievel.
Evel Knievel, yeah.
Yeah, slightly phallic shaped. Careful with your camera angles here. I remember, I don't know if it's Blue Peter or some kids' TV show, but they went on set do a little location promo report, and it was this scene and the car. I love this. I actually do quite like this car. It's sort of the Batmobile. Patch's Batmobile.
Batmobile, yeah, it is.
Or the Patchmobile. And probably, it was designed by the Meddings ensemble and their designers.
And it uses all the sound effects, doesn't it, from Pac-Man for the Atari 2600, which they kind of use in Superman 3. I'm not saying because Warner Brothers had owned Atari at that point, but this wasn't a Warner Brothers production, so it's kind of recycling sound effects. from the Pinewood Studio like sound team's archive, you know.
Oh, and they do use the same stuff. Bond, I noticed it on Bond a lot. I'm a big Bond
The explosions and stuff.
guy. But yeah, you could there's the crunching metal of Drax's space station is also the crunching metal in Quantum of Solace. You can hear the same tones. Plus, they've got their own Wilhelm scream in Bond that they always use when anyone gets thrown off a plane in a Bond film in the 70s and 80s. Oh.
It's a wonderful little set. Yeah, it's a great set piece. It's just when it flies out the thing, they've got the wrong angle. I think this makes it look like a miniature. It goes all Thunderbirds. Whee!
Well, it should do because it's the same guys.
Yeah, I know. But,
based in Slough, which is where Thunderbirds.
Derek's done better.
There you go. It's like cracks on vinyl, or I don't mind the artifice of big movies like this. I'd actually rather see a real model or a matte shot than anything sort of CGI.
Oh, sure.
Because a matte shot won't age like a CGI. I saw some of Polar Express the other day and went, ooh, that's in another 10 years it'll be fine.
That's a strange Christmas film as well. That's a bit odd, that one. That's that kind of weird phase, wasn't it? Was Zemeckis was kind of obsessed with kind of replicating actors in 3D and kind of,
Yeah, there's some directors that really... James Cameron's another one, that they get obsessed with the technology. Maybe Janos Schwartz should have been more obsessed by technology, but they get so obsessed by technology, that's all it is. Lucas kind of did that as well, and just took their eye off the
swallowed him up
in
the Star Wars prequels, didn't it?
There's nothing wrong with having a plastic alien that's blatantly two guys bending over, pulling cables and levers. It worked for these reindeers.
This was the last big thing the Soul Kinds did at Pinewood, because Christopher Columbus, I don't think didn't make use of Pinewood. Yeah,
and then they kind of disbanded a bit. I think I don't know if he's still around, still on it, but I became Facebook friends with Ilya Soulkind. An interesting character. I'd love to.
Well, Pierre Spengler is on Facebook. I think he's based somewhere around Oxford. I think he lives in the UK. It'd be good to interview Pierre at some point, because he's always sort of seen as the villain, of this sort of the fallout of Donna and the Soul Kinds, and he's, when you sort of, I saw him being interviewed, for the DVDs and stuff years later on, he's actually a very nice person, very sound, and I think far more sort of business savvy compared to Ilya and his father. I think Pierre had, creatively, I think was a better producer.
I wonder what Donna's Santa Claus the movie would have looked like. I mean, he kind of did it with Scrooge, and that wasn't perhaps the best Christmas movie. I think Santa Claus the movie is better than Donna's Scrooge.
It's more of a celebration. Yeah, I think it's a better celebration of that festive season, where Scrooge is kind of like Bill Murray just goes bonkers by the end. He's like lost the plot. But that film has a massive fan base, where critically I don't think it did particularly well. I think it was kind of tonally uneven kind of film.
That hasn't aged well. Whereas I think this film has. This film's got... It's still fine. Yes, it's tied up with my own personal nostalgia, so I'm always going to...
I want to see the John Carpenter Santa Claus. He would, out to prove that he could do other stuff outside of horror and action, where Starman was such a great romantic sort of comedy mixed with sci-fi. And it showed he could do other genres very well, and I think this would have been quite interesting.
We could have had the line, "Are we at war with Norway?" They could have done that again, sort of. No, it's just Santa.
You just kind of want these freakish, Rob Bottin kind of reindeer.
Wilfred Brimley would have made an amazing Santa. I bet that was on.
Oh man, that'd be great.
That works. That worked. Right. Okay. Right. I'm going to go off and do the John Carpenter. John Carpenter Santa Claus.
The what if? Yeah, the what if. That's what you want to do. The what if article for Yahoo. You know what I mean? Of Santa Claus and John.
Who'd have played BZ? What do you think? Who was,
man. Heavy synthy score by Carpenter as well.
Yeah. All of that. Oops, and now we're...
It's good wire work in this as well. You don't see the wires, which is good. You see when a kid plays basketball, he flies past camera and you can't see anything. It's really good.
A killer on the back, though. If you're ever into your talk to Sarah Douglas and Jack O'Halloran, they kind of... it wasn't great on people's backs. Modern people testify to that. They'd probably be a lot safer and you wouldn't be hanging there. But in the old days, Christopher Reeve and Margot
Chris
Kidder would be
had
hung
slip
there.
disc, things like that,
That's cute. Again, Sometimes
you,
just
Mark.
doing it for real works. That's someone's dad now. That's someone's dad. The ginger kid nicking the cookie. We have to find someone whose parent was a child in Santa
And
Claus.
we've got to find Ricky for Superman 3 and Jeremy for Superman 4. That's what we got to do.
Oh God.
I think the guy who plays Ricky's on like LinkedIn. He works for some gas company, I think.
There's that creepy one in Superman 2 that's just voiced. So they did that weird thing of just
dubbed his voice over
by a woman. It's kind of the Bart Simpson thing. Fine, it works for that. But in the 80s and 70s, if it was always a boy actor. If there was a boy character, perhaps under 8 years old, I'm sure they'd just get a sort of mum to do the voice, and it would never work.
Odd,
and they did it in Superman 2. Please, sir, please don't look up. Please save my daddy or something. Don't hurt my daddy. I was like, shut up, hurt him. Just shut up.
It was like in was it June? They dub over the little girl at the end.
Oh, that's terrible.
It's awful, isn't it?
I saw June for the first time recently. I weirdly preferred June 84 to June 21.
Oh dear.
Because I just thought at least I could work out who was the villains, where we were. There was no distinctions in the new one, but that's for another commentary. Not a bad set. I mean, like I love the sort of gold bling, and he's got his BZ logo on the desk there. Yes,
but it's completely down the scale, isn't it, compared to like Ross Webster? It's just like a series, because it's kind of two rooms they've made, haven't they? Where he's got the sort of boardroom section with his long table and his desk. But it's kind of fine. I mean, it's not to show. I mean, he doesn't have the excess of Ross Webster.
And you don't get an establishing shot. We don't actually know where we are. You'd think there'd be a BZ street entrance, no?
Yeah, all you saw was like an exterior of the factory, so I presume his office is in the factory, and the factory looked like something like, I don't know, like some just regular warehouse
down by Brooklyn or somewhere.
I always thought to me when I was younger, is this the entrance to Elstree? You know?
Oh, it probably is. Yeah, or Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Which basically Elstree became Sainsbury's, became Toys R Us.
Yeah. Oh, it was Tesco's, wasn't it? It was Tesco's.
Yeah, was it Tesco's? There's aisles in Tesco's that. Yeah, the X-Wing is parked here. This is David. Near the vegan choices.
This is where Chris Reeve fought Clive Mantle. Oh no, that's where the bakery is now. Damn.
I wonder if Lithgow was the first choice for this. I feel they had a bigger name and then had to scale it down.
Possibly,
although I think he's a genius.
Oh yeah, I mean he steals the film really. That's the kind of thing. It kind of steals the thunder from Santa. I mean, but it's great because you then got to Dudley Moore, who is a comedian, but Lithgow is not known for. He's not a trained sort of comedian. He's just like theatre actor who's bloody good at comedy.
You're right, though. There's BZ's character. We should have had BZ being a naughty kid that didn't get a present from Huddleston's and just seed it a bit.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he's almost reluctantly painting wooden duck toys, but with a slight, I love this. I felt, it just fizzles out. It just disappears.
The kid who's obsessed with Mr. Incredible and he resents him. And it should have been that where BZ's kind of resented Santa Claus all these years, and he's going to get his revenge. And then he's sort of, because it's going to be a family film. By the end, he's kind of like he's made, he's friends with Santa by the end. But that would have been a great little twist. But I think how the story's kind of played out, there's no space for that now, because it's just they essentially have kind of too many characters now with their own kind of story threads. Where Santa's story thread has kind of run out of steam, where now you just got Patch and BZ. But
Christmas 2, it's going to be like Superman 2. We'll replace the director. Richard Lester will come in and play Santa.
Everyone's going to get like wigs flowing off and like ice cream in the face and sliding over banana skins.
We'll have a fake Hackman with his back to camera because it's never Hackman. I was trying to explain that to someone the other day. If you look the last act of Superman 2, Hackman's just not really there.
Yeah, shot from behind, isn't it?
Yeah,
just say that 2-3 shots. Yeah.
I mean, it's a long film. It's nearly 2 hours, an hour and 50. You kind of think where they wasted time, because I don't feel the origin stuff is stolen. Maybe some of this middle Manhattan stuff. I don't know if we needed two kids. obviously it's a kids' movie and it's full of old men with white beards. So you do need to have something for the kids to latch onto. But maybe the Cornelia character, I just felt.
And so Santa's wife, doesn't really get much to do either. She's kind of just like not saying anything, just sort of looking a bit like upset. That.
I would have had the little, is it Joe, the kid here? I would have had him being BZ's kid that he's lost, and try and just tie it in a bit better. That's my right in mind.
We could have this moment where, I suppose we do have it where the kid sort of joins Patch, because Patch is a nice guy. He's not being bad. He's just kind of being misled. But you could have had the kid join BZ and turn against Santa, and he's got to win them back. It's just as ripe opportunity to sort of redo this story.
I think there's a sports cut here. Do you think there's like release the Jano cut?
Start a new trend. People are like, what the fuck? What's this?
They'll probably use off takes from the Donner cut of Superman the movie. It'll be Sulkine within Sulkine within Sulkine.
Oh my god!
It'll be like off-cut Russian dolls. Yeah.
Oh man. Those machines need more buttons, I think.
It is Chock-a-Block and Bertha, isn't it?
It is Bertha in it, yeah.
Oh, he's keeping the weed in the drawer. Good.
Yeah, good man.
Dealer know where it. Keep it, yeah. Put it in the fridge. Also, I've heard. Oh, that's 80 quid's worth there, at least.
Yeah.
Be careful.
Yeah.
Be careful. He's got COVID. He doesn't look well. That'll be the thing. What will be the first Christmas movie to reference the C word, the COVID word?
I'm surprised they didn't actually throw in like the little girls. She'd have like a Supergirl movie poster. You know what I mean? Just sort of reference their own films within things.
Yeah, because I always do that in the 80s films. Always looking at the walls. There's a great website. I don't know if it's still there, where this guy looked at films like Explorers and E.T. and Poltergeist and really broke them down as to what merchandise from other movies and other pop culture elements were there. It's a really clever, cool website. I can't remember what it is right now.
I'll check that out, because I like the Princess Bride. The kid has He-Man and Captain America figures, and but it's like obviously with the crossover stuff with Lucas and Spielberg, you've always got tons of Star Wars. Like Poltergeist, it's just littered with Star Wars, and
also Alien. I'm sure there's an Alien. Why would Carol Ann have a picture of Alien in her room?
That's right.
I saw that once.
The Terry Gilliam movie he did, what was it?
Time Bandits?
Time Bandits. The little kid's got Superman picture in the corner, Chris Reeve, where it's got a montage of photos and stuff of like everything basically. And that's a British kid.
there's a moment in Supergirl, and I won't go there, but Maureen Teefy, who plays Lana Lane, the sister or cousin of Lois Lane, she's got a Prince Andrew poster on her wall.
Really?
Oh, okay. Oddly, the whole scene was done near Pizza Express Woking, but that's a satire.
Did you see the Time magazine he had at Christmas 2? It said, and
yes.
It's got like actually it looks very similar to the teaser poster for Santa Claus the movie. But
that's some great artwork as well. Great artwork.
That'd be a good prop to have. They've still got that floating around. It's probably in like Derek Medding's drawer, like in the attic. His children.
I remember at school, someone's dad worked on Batman 89, and they brought in a blueprint for Batmobile, and it was kind of way before the film was announced. It was quite early doors. We're like, and we saw that beautiful curved wheel arches, and it was delicious, and with that sort of rounded bit on the front. I remember thinking, should you have brought this to school? And it had like property of Warner Brothers. It was a proper, draftsman blueprint. One of the great things about growing up, in the home counties, is where all these films were shot. So there's always someone's dad who worked on something.
Oh yeah. There's one I spoke to makeup effects guy recently, and he said we were working on Alien 3 when they got there in like 91. The Gotham street was still there. Still being left there by Warner Brothers, thinking they were going to do Batman 2, and we said that was pretty incredible. And he opened up this kind of this kind of either cupboard or something like that, or this kind of room, and the Batwing was there, the miniature, the ginormous one Derek Meddings had made, and they were just kind of freaking out. Oh my god, it's a shame they didn't make Batman 2 in Pinewood again, because that set was just like defined the movie. And
wasn't the Gotham set the only reason they decided to put the Gotham set at Pinewood was because of the road, the Supergirl Midvale Street. They thought, we got quite enough concrete, like a sort of highway here already, so we can now build on this. So
you can just drive down with the Batmobile and get enough speed.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a guy on this, might have been removed by now, but there was some group of teenagers had a little video camera. They they kind of broke through the fence at Black Park and got into Pinewood and wandering around the Gotham set, and that you kind of could do that. And I think it was perhaps 10, 12 years ago that changed. As I say, I remember walking around the sets of Quantum of Solace and being at Pinewood. I was actually there for another gig. I was working on a BBC comedy show. But when you suddenly realise, Bond's shooting over there, Wolfman's there, and Little Dorrit, and you would wander around, as long as you had a clipboard and some headphones, no one knows everyone that works there. But for good or bad, it's become quite strict with security and clearances. It's a little bit Berlin Wall now at Pinewood. But it's ensured its future by teaming up with Marvel and Disney and Spielberg. I think they're just finished shooting Indiana Jones there.
I think there's a tax incentive as well, isn't there? Because I think the Conservatives kept it quite low for filming, haven't they? I think.
Well, yes. There's a reason. The then Chancellor, I can't remember his name now, but he gets a thank you and a proper credit at the end of Force Awakens because he did ensure those films, would come in and.
Plus, they're there to make use of the British talent as well because they know this stuff. They know how to do the Star Wars and superhero stuff quite well.
Yeah, and there's a reason. Your Spielberg's, your Lucas's, just all kinds. There was because the crews were there. James Cameron came over, minus the tea lady on Aliens, but he came over and shot his stuff there. There's still a big respect for British crews, even to this day.
He brought them over. I think he brought a lot of them over onto Titanic as well. So because he'd worked with them on Aliens.
And little things. Someone told me the other day that Georgia, the state of Georgia, Pinewood had a newish setup there, but then Georgia changed its. Sadly, to bring the tone down, it changed its abortion laws, not in favour of women being able to make up their own minds. So suddenly, there was, on principle and the right principle, a lot of companies said, we're not going to shoot now in Georgia, we're off. So that's when suddenly Pinewood expanded. I mean, it wasn't just because Trump changed or allowed, the Trump era changed abortion laws in the state of Georgia, but these things have a knock-on effect. So if you go to Pinewood now, there's almost another Pinewood on the opposite road that they're still finishing. You've got Skyfall Avenue, Michael G. Wilson Boulevard, Barbara Windsor, Street.
Carry on close.
Well, there is. The weird thing about that is where they filmed a lot of the domestic scenes in Carry On films is called Bond Close.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
In fact, I was watching a Carry On from the mid-70s the other night, as you do. It's Christmas, why not? And I went, that's Bond Close. And if you ever drive to Pinewood, you can't really drive in it much. You can drive up and down as many times as you want, but take a side tour off into the suburban streets and buildings, and you go, oh my God, I know this street. I've seen this. Yeah.
This is a very strange bed when he's like the cover is the sort of lid.
I wanted it. He's reading the novelisation.
yeah, but you wake up and you need to decapitate yourself. Oh,
I see. Yeah. That's not. Yeah, no, that's not good.
No. BJ Toys.
Ubiquitous security gate. They've strapped Meg Tilly to the.
They should have had Alexander Salkind play one of the elves because he was quite short, wasn't he? He could have had a cameo.
Probably did. Then his son had to do his version, and then it went wrong. They fell out in the edits. I don't know if there's a costume choice, but everything suddenly is puce and pink in Cornelia as well.
No, yeah, thoroughly girly. But it's the 80s, isn't it? You have to define the girls with all the pink,
Oh, here's your letter turning into a cartoon. Oh, he's now in a bong. They're now they've stopped eating it. They're just bonging it now. Yeah, he's mashed out of his head. Wants some. Anyone got the patch snacks? Oh, I gotta do this again.
Oh, So his dealer's telling him the weed's going to be late.
Yeah, they really missed the scene where Huddleston storms into BZ's office or the factory and says, "Yeah, that's why you didn't get that." Well, he does. There is a reference to you being a naughty kid and not getting a present.
Yes, he does. Yeah, he does. Oh, very naughty boy, But it's just to be like, he used to walk in and like BZ says to his assistant, "Take the gentleman's cape," and.
Yeah, and he thinks it's just another fake Santa from an advert.
Yeah, exactly.
Or weren't you in Hawaii 5-0? Made old bones as well, David Huddleston. He kind of just carried on working forever. Because I didn't know at the time, was he one of these actors who's actually 43? Sometimes actors do these roles and they're not that old. But he was in his 50s. But
he like Maggie Smith, like Maggie Smith and like Hook. And I thought, bloody hell. When I saw her years later, I thought, bloody hell, how old is she? But she's made to look old, in Hook. So
that horrible thing is you get older, you suddenly realise, oh my god, it's like Keanu Reeves in Matrix 4 is the same age as Roger Moore in A View to a Kill. And you're like, no, I can't. I can't equate with that.
Well, thankfully, Keanu, he's aged very, very well.
Right, pep talk. Come on. I know we've had a night on it, but we've had some chocolate. Okay.
They've got to fly.
Go out and get some Rizzlers.
This January. You've got to fly out in January, isn't he? It's just after Christmas, isn't it? So.
Yeah, I mean, again, they could have had a scene of Santa sort of on the beach in Mexico, sort of having his holiday. Having that spoilt by this all. Again, that's all right. There's probably a lot of Mac stuff going on, but that's a very long set. And I think that turn, they had to give it a turn to accommodate the dimensions of the set and the sound stages.
And the sleigh as it swings around, like bashing into the set,
That's it. Tie a child to a hot water pipe. Actually, it would have been amazing to have Peter Cook in this as well. They could almost have been.
Oh, if Lithgow wasn't going to be BZ, it'd be Peter Cook. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that could have. Yeah. I always think Peter Cook in Supergirl looks a bit rehabby. He looks like he's kind of his first week of not drinking for a while or something.
Yeah, I do love it though when she gives him that.
Oh, the up and down stare.
Well, she she kicks him out because he wants to see her, and then he looks in the window and he sees, the bitch, because he's got that sort of spots all over his face.
We will do a Supergirl commentary.
Yes,
we must do. I have big thoughts and observations on that. It's basically an Almodovar comic book movie. Two elderly women pissed off that there's a young princess taking all their glory, whilst their best mate Peter Cook is trying to not drink. Right, we've got to get to the action unit. We're in the last act now. No one ever paces up and down. I'm sorry, no one ever paces up and down.
I've done it a couple of times. This one I'm talking out aloud, trying to collect my thoughts.
I might do it on the phone actually, but I never do it if I'm
do it on the
waiting
phone,
for Santa.
Yeah.
This is a really crisp version we're fortunate to be seeing, but the effects hold up.
Yeah, Studio Canal have done a good remaster on this. Well, just a decent scan of it. I think the colours are a bit oversaturated. I think really, a bit blown out a bit. Like the reds look a bit too noisy. But yeah, it's because Santa Claus was always this kind of shown on TV, this pan and scan kind of thing, wasn't it? So when you see it was shot on 2351. So for years, I got the DVD by Anchor Bay, who also done Supergirl as well, like for DVD remastered THX. It's the only version actually where you can get the soundtrack in Dolby Digital 5.1, and all these new Blu-rays are out. It's only in stereo, which is kind of strange. Because I think the Soul Kinds would have done this. Maybe I'm not sure if it got like a 70mm blow up for its premiere with Dolby sort of 6-track sound, but I'll have to look into that. Actually, I'll do that.
That was blatantly a model shot there. It's like a mechanical Santa, like pulling the reins at a sort of automaton. Like, we've got the police cars rented from the vehicle hire firm outside Pinewood. I actually did. I did a short film, and we needed a prison van. We went to somewhere sort of north of Watford, and it was I think it's called Action Cars or something. And it was amazing. It was all these American cars and school buses and yellow school buses and big prison vans and bullion vans, and it was great. And I think half of it probably had been used in Sorkind films.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, just eating your own puce lollipops. That's
Yeah, it's not particularly great, is it? When he's like out the window.
And that's kind of him out of the film now.
Yeah, it is. He's gone. He's gone until you see him at the end. He's like, "Get me down!" as he flies past the camera.
Sort of,
you know.
Yeah, goes past Nuclear Man and Drax from Moonraker.
Lacey Warfield.
They're sort of all in the villain's Phantom Zone.
Yeah. I just sort of found like a list of all the films that are blown up to 70mm in 1985. I don't think. Oh, Santa Claus did. Yeah, he was blown up to for its premiere. So the Prince Charles Cinema could, if they could find it, a 70mm print of this.
Oh,
that'd be good.
I think which cast members still alive? Lithgow, and again all the children are now
a Q&A
adults.
or something, introduction to it.
Oh my god,
this movie's
BZ.
terrible. Enjoy.
BZ2. I would actually pay good money to see him back as BZ.
They could have done that in Third Rock from the Sun. There's like a little reference to BZ, and you'd be like, you know?
For free?
Yeah, for free? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, these reindeers are getting their money from equity.
See, this is all. I said you were saying very early on, like thinking they may have recycled stuff from the other Superman films.
No, it's
there's all new stuff. They've actually, gone and shot it. So
it gets complicated as well. I mean, obviously, maybe one take here or there's a cutting room floor bit that someone's found, but it's
not a Starlog or Starburst when they reviewed Supergirl saying, "Oh, the Sorkinds just recycled shots from Superman." They hadn't.
No.
There's no background plates from Superman.
There's a lot of. I remember, like I said earlier, when Helen Slater's doing her "Oh, I can fly," and she's going over sort of Caribou and Golden Gate Bridge, and she goes over a drive-in, and it's playing Psycho 2, oddly, which was an '82 film, I believe.
Yeah.
So no, they should give them some credit.
They didn't cheap out on those sort of things. Oh, here we go. Gonna get the super duper looper.
Oh shit! We kept the weed near the radiator. This is what happens. It's the chemical stuff. It's not the real stuff.
it is like the lamest kind of saving of someone. I don't know how Santo could have saved them. I either it would just be like he whizzes past and grabs them, you know what I mean, and just throws them back into the sleigh as it explodes. But I suppose they had to sort of get the reindeer to sort of do something that was fantastical or some sort of maneuver that would show us. It's great when they see Santa's there. It's great because he's come to save them. But
maybe lick a lollipop.
Slowly.
That doesn't sound right. Lick one of the lollipops just so they can both float, and then he can come past and grab them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not as much fun as a process shot of a miniature going round and round.
They flipped it,
No, they flipped it. Yeah, blatantly.
Boom.
I mean, they missed a beat with these puce BZ lollipops. They could have been a Christmas thing. I'd have been all over that.
Because they always did those every couple of years. You see those Willy Wonka bars, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, who owns those Wonka bars anyway? It's not
someone very rich at Warner Brothers chocolate department.
I suppose if you ate those Wonka bars, we end up tasting like those Christmas calendar chocolate,
Yeah.
Oh, it's not very. It's not very good.
Oh, bless it. The film does kind of look. Yeah, it runs out of its own reindeer weed.
Yeah, it does. It's right out. Yeah, it's literally right at the end.
And you never know sometimes with these things because I don't think it was quite the production shit show that Quest for Peace was. Not that was really the Sorkinds. They passed it on a bit. But I don't feel. I'm sure this was probably the script more or less all the way through. You can't change too much.
I just don't think they'd really come together to create a really interesting third act. With the script and it's like BZ doesn't really get his dues really. I mean he just obviously goes floating into space, but I mean he doesn't. there's no face-off. And all that, or maybe Patch getting his revenge on BZ. There's none of that. So it's he just makes the mistake of eating too many lollies. Going into space.
Santa's stuck with Meg Tilly for eternity.
A smelly kid. You need to go have a bath straight away. You stink.
Oh. Oh yeah.
Boom. Oh, a bit of cotton wool there as the camera pans away.
Oh. Yep. Drax, BZ.
Get me down.
He's gonna smash through the Terrence Stamp. God, Ursa glass.
We're gonna have him in the Phantom Zone, like.
Have him land in the Phantom Zone and Peter O'Toole drink.
Yeah,
That'd
be so good. That'd be so good. Oh man, I love it. It's a great Christmas song as well. It's so difficult, isn't it, to create? Because every musician wants to create a Christmas song. Because then, even if it's kind of so-so, it will still make money every year because it'll be on these compilation albums, and the radio will play it. And this one doesn't seem to get as you're outside of Terry Wogan and his radio from years ago. No one plays this.
He was like the John Peel of Santa Claus the Movie. He was always pushing the soundtrack.
John Peel. Yeah. Jeffrey
Kramer, quite a good comedy star, didn't get enough to do, but he's always good value. And this is so you're talking about. It came out actually, The Snowman was 82, and there's an odd little bit of trivia here where everyone assumes Alan Jones sung on The Snowman. He didn't. He did the released single version, the film version.
That's right.
But Alan Jones does do the vocals on one of the Christmas songs earlier in this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Shit. Should have pointed that out, Mark. Is that the montage bit?
I'm doing the mute thing here, otherwise it will play up. I've been watching it on mute, but I've seen this film many times, gloriously so. I love the font as well. That's a real Christmas font.
Oh, it is, isn't it? So, and they spent, it's kind of essentially grabbing footage of all these shot and it's kind of a montage of scenes. But
Lynn Stallmaster.
They haven't cheaped out. Yeah, Lynn Stallmaster.
Who passed away recently. He's always one of those names on a film that I kind of saw. I said this in watching Skies, that I kind of knew the names Stallmaster and Williams and ILM before I knew the name of my own house.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? When you sort of see these kind of... It's like, as a kid, Derek Meddings was just like the name guy. Because you see Thunderbirds and Stingray and then you see Superman. And think, oh,
Mike and Jane Fenton, that was another one. They were always...
Paul Wilson as well, yeah, like visual effects photography. Yeah, just similar names. I'm sure Chris Corbold isn't here somewhere, Oh,
we're going to... look. I interviewed him recently, and if I should have mentioned this. I had to hold back and not mention Condor. That was
Stuart Freeborn, there you go.
Stuart Freeborn, of course. I had a little story with Stuart Freeborn. My stepmother was his carer when he was still living at home, sort of in his ailing years. And you're going to hate me, but I was invited to go and spend an afternoon with him because he was clearing stuff out. And I didn't get round to it. And then he got moved to nearer where his kids lived, and he was never local anymore. And he was throwing away beautiful stuff from Superman, and I've got a few mementos, photos mostly, and some Yoda stuff.
Did you telling me he Chris Reeve gave him a watch, didn't he?
Yes, yeah. And Christopher Reeve would phone him up to see if he was all right, and so would Peter Mayhew, Chewbacca. He would call. In fact, my stepmother went, "It's Chewbacca on the phone for you, Stuart." I was like, yeah, I really should have spent some time with that guy because he was very enthusiastic about his stuff, and I presume he did a lot of the elf makeup and all of that. There you go. Every Christmas Eve, sung by Alan Jones.
Oh, there you go. I mean, this will be on, ITV in the UK probably on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day morning,
No, it's always like 2 days before in the morning.
Is it?
Yeah. But I don't think this film's ever been shown on Christmas Day in Britain.
It was shown on Christmas Eve.
On its original
premiere on TV. Yeah. 5:45, I think, or 6:45. So 5:45. So perfect time slot, because you have to watch Christmassy stuff on Christmas Eve for me to get you in the mood.
Yeah.
Because Christmas Day, TV's on, but it's on in the background. You know what I mean? As you're doing other stuff with the family. So.
And I can't do a Christmas film after the Well, after Christmas Day, I will not.
No, no,
a friend's
it's done.
done it's a Christmas Carol, and he's wanted me to go and see it afterwards. I went, no, I can't. So there we are.
That's the end, folks. Yeah.
Our flight with Santa is over. We're both hovering in space, munching pink candy.
Well, as Mark suggested earlier, we have to get the Supergirl commentary done. The previous piece by Janot Swark, and we have to make a start on the Star Wars commentaries, because you've talked a lot about Star Wars in your books.
Yes.
So it's going to be, I'm sure you
absolutely.
can
Let's
provide something, a little bit more, because everyone knows about how Star Wars was made, but I think it's kind of like being around it when it came out is kind of a different angle. And because I wasn't there. I wasn't fully aware. All I remember from Star Wars as a kid was kind of like Return of the Jedi figures still being sold in like 1987. So
yes,
that was my early memory of Star Wars.
Well, I saw New Hope last. That's what you did, because you were bound to sort of Boxing Day showings or the local video store that have one copy of Empire Strikes Back. So I saw, it was Jedi, Empire, Star Wars. I saw them in that random order, but it was fine. I think I saw Temple of Doom before Raiders as well, but that's what us 80s kids did.
Well, everyone, hope you enjoyed the commentary. As I said, me and Mark will be back with some more very soon. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.